Hi, everyone. My name is Jillian Rich. I'm with PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric Company. I'm a program manager in our Government and Community Partnerships group. My role is to coordinate our strategic planning dollars that go through our partnership programs, and then also our climate action planning dollars, among other things. And so that's why I'm here. So we have a great panel today. It's called Just Do It, Implement Your Climate Action Plans. But we all know it's not that easy. So today we have a great panel to get at some of those barriers and challenges. They're going to concisely summarize their adopted climate action plans and what they've done to date to implement them. And then we'll get into breakout sessions where we'll ask you for your ideas and what would help you be able to implement your climate action plans more effectively. As you saw this morning, we have a lot of people from the state, and then we also have the statewide energy efficiency collaborative partners available and are looking for things to do to serve you better. And so we want to bring some ideas to the table that we can effectively implement to overcome the barriers that we talk about today in implementing our climate action plans. So we have a diverse panel, like I said. We tried to get a wide range of perspectives. We have the city of Palmdale over in LA County. We have the city of Santa Cruz up in Central Coast. And then we also have Santa Monica here locally. We have hopefully some perspectives to share for those of you that have already adopted a climate action plan and are facing some of the same challenges, or those that are maybe just getting started, and maybe there's some of you in the room, and you can think ahead for some of these challenges and how to incorporate their lessons learned into your climate action plans that you may be looking to adopt or looking to develop. So logistics, we'll have about 30 minutes of presentations, and then we'll do the small group breakout sessions. I'm a fan of clarifying questions. If I have to hold my questions to the end, I usually forget. So if you're like me, then just go ahead, raise your hand. All the panelists can answer clarifying questions throughout the presentation. Any other questions before we get started? No? Great. Well, I'll go ahead and hand it over to our first presenter. It is Matt Hennigan. He coordinates energy efficiency, renewable energy, and climate change programs for the city of Santa Monica.
All right, thank you very much. Hi, thank you for inviting me to speak today. I just want to give you a short introduction to the city of Santa Monica. We're a city of about 90,000 people. But that population swells to 250,000 people in the daytime. We have a large office park community, and or 300,000 in the daytime, apparently. About 8 square miles, coastal, and heavily dependent on tourism, but also a lot of retail, auto dealerships, retail, as well as media and technology. They're starting to refer to the region as Silicon Beach, as the next Silicon Valley. You heard it here first. All right. So Santa Monica also has a long history of progressive politics and commitment to environmental action. And that's demonstrated in the 1994 adoption of our Sustainable City Plan. And the Sustainable City Plan focuses on all measures of sustainability. So that's the 3 E's or the 3 P's, or environment, economy, and equity is the other E there. And so we've been working on this stuff for a long time, but no one had ever put it all together in a climate action plan. And so a big push in our climate action plan was figuring out all of the things that the city was already doing that count as climate action activities. So last year we put together what we're calling the 15 by 15 plan. And the idea is 15 measures to be achieved by the end of 2015 that reduce emissions 15% below 1990 levels. 1990 is the baseline that we've had for a long time, and we're sticking to it. Right now, or when the plan was adopted, we were at 14% below 1990 levels, in large part due to the ongoing activities of the Sustainable City Plan, but also because Edison's grid is getting cleaner. So thank you, Southern California Edison, for your renewable power. It's a big help. But we still needed 29,000 metric tons to get to our goal. And with growth projections, we were actually 2 or 3% away from 15%. The city's growing rapidly. We're getting a new light rail line, and so there's lots of development, new hotels, new apartments, new retail centers going in. So that adds load, that adds emissions, and we've got to make up for that. Now, implementation was already underway in a number of existing plans. Our land use and circulation element focuses all that development in dense, walkable neighborhoods, and there's a carbon emission reduction associated with that. There's a bicycle action plan already on the books that's already being implemented that laid out targets for miles of bike paths and bike sharing, and we were able to take credit for those activities, as well as a water self-sufficiency plan to try to get the city off of imported and very carbon-intensive water and utilize groundwater. And that's already been underway and sets out targets that we were able to include in the 15 by 15 plan. So key to putting this plan together was just tracking down all of these plans and all of these initiatives that were already going on. And so almost everything in the plan was already included in somebody's work plan, somebody's capital improvement budget, with the exception of solar on city facilities and solar community-wide, and also energy efficiency. We didn't have identified funding sources for those, but as we've been hearing about, there's plenty of financing opportunities, and we're tackling that. Now, this was 2013 that we passed this. I think it was February. And there have been a few hiccups as we've gathered data to track implementation. We discovered that the savings from switching from diesel buses to natural gas buses was not materializing. We looked at the fuel use reports and crunched the numbers, and we saw diesel go down and natural gas go up, but in such proportions that we did not see a climate savings. It was supposed to give us 500 tons. So we had to look and try to figure out what's going on. It's still a bit of a mystery. What we think happened is that 24 out of the 40 diesel buses that were replaced with articulated buses, those double buses. So we've got a lot more passenger miles. We've got more, weight of bus driving around providing enhanced service, but we didn't get the carbon emission savings that we were looking for. So this is an example of how the best laid plans can fall by the wayside, and you really have to bob and weave. The climate action plan has to be a living document. So what we're doing is urging the bus agency to look at electric buses. That's going to be a long-term effort. But we're also looking at the possibility of getting directed biogas, which was not even available when we wrote this plan, and offsetting bus emissions that way. So technologies technology is changing so fast, and you all know this, that a plan written a year and a half ago may not have even taken into account some of these options. Wanted to highlight one other barrier. In the plan, we said we would adopt a REACH code that's 10% better than Title 24 2013. Well, as Title 24 2013 became more fleshed out and we saw how stringent it was, it became pretty clear that it's not a slam dunk case to go ahead and do that REACH code. And so again, we're having to kind of bob and weave, find new solutions, and we're looking for other places in the building code where we can tighten up requirements to get a similar carbon savings through water conservation and material recycled concrete and things like that. We're still going to work on the 10% REACH code, but it could be a long road. So as far as advice for cities that are implementing climate action plans and working on climate action plans, the lesson learned here is that short-term goals tend to prevent procrastination. This 2015 goal, staring everybody in the face, really focused everybody on immediate action. Building in quick wins is a way to gain allies in the organization, and so that's been extremely helpful. Having that council commitment to these specific measures has also been extremely helpful. When we apply for funds, there's actually a line on the form, on the capital improvement request form, that says, is this related to any council action? And I can say yes, Council said we were going to build a bunch of solar on municipal facilities. It's right there in the plan. And we wouldn't have that type of cover if we hadn't included those measures. A big part of our outreach to the departments was asking, what's your wish list? What would you love to do if you had the money? Let's put it in the plan so they have to fund it. And along with that is just celebrating the existing efforts that your departments are doing already. If you really look under every rock in the city, you'll find a lot of climate mitigation efforts that are ongoing. And daylighting that and celebrating that brings those departments on board. And so that initial meeting is not, hey, Public Works, you got to get your act together and save the climate. It's Public Works, let us, help us celebrate everything that you're doing. And that makes that conversation go a lot easier when you do need to get into the next steps and more visionary activities. You've already won some allies. So I'm happy to take questions or pass it on to the next presenter. Thanks very much.
Can you give an example of how you worked with your Public Works Department on some of the projects that they were doing and kind of give them accolades on how they're moving forward and be able to relate that to your climate action plan?
Well, the effort that comes to mind was a planning department effort, our Safe Routes to Schools. They were doing this to promote bicycling, and it was part of the bike action plan. It's something that's already funded through however planners get funds. But it was something that was already in place that nobody was really talking about, and we could highlight it in the plan and recommend that it be expanded, which was on the planning department's wish list anyway, and provided that council buy-in for that program that had just kind of existed in the background before.
We have another question.
What are some of these quick wins that you're talking about?
So, it's been a while. Let's see. Quick wins. Quick wins might be, an energy efficiency project that's just a no-brainer, or something that really, the buses, right? They were going to replace those buses anyway. So incorporating it in the plan was, we were able to take credit for it in the tonnage, but also celebrate what they were doing over at the bus company. It's a lot like energy efficiency projects. If you just go ahead and do it without applying for a rebate, you don't get any credit. You don't get any in your energy leader model. But if you take the time to put it in the plan and take credit for it, all of a sudden it shows up in your totals, and people can celebrate it.
Great. So are you going to do a 20 by 2020?
I think the next one's going to be a longer term. I think we're going to have 2030 and 2050 goals for municipal and community wide. It's going to be a big effort. I can't wait.
Great, thank you. I especially like the bob and weave tactic, but being a soccer fan with the World Cup right now, I'm going to have to come up with a soccer equivalent, like dribble and shoot or something. I don't know. All right, so on to the next one. Ross Clark is the Climate Action Coordinator for the City of Santa Cruz, where he drafted and is now coordinating the interdepartmental implementation of the Climate Action Plan. He's also a member of the Santa Cruz County Commission of the Environment and an author of a monthly Santa Cruz Sentinel article, Earth Matters.
That sounds really good. Thank you. You can hear me now? Great. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak, but also to hear from everyone else that's been talking today about what they're doing, because it seems like at a city level, we are in our own little environment and we're doing as much as we can, and we really don't get these opportunities very often to come out and exchange ideas with colleagues. So this is a great opportunity, and it sounds like Matt and I have very similar situations and have adopted some similar techniques. So I guess we're doing something wrong together. I don't know. So next slide. So a little on the city of Santa Cruz. We are a population about 62,000 coastal city. We're a charter city. We have our own water, wastewater, and waste management services. The Climate Action Plan implementation or staffing for the implementation is funded My position is funded through the general plan implementation and maintenance fee, which is a fee that goes on to permits for new development. There's also some of it supported through green building fees and then some enterprise funds. And then our climate action plan was adopted 2 years ago, and we've been implementing it for a long time, as Matt said. A lot of great staff have been working on sustainability and energy efficiency for decades. And so it was a challenge, but also a joy to jump in the middle and start taking credit for all of their great work. That's a joke. And then our greenhouse gas reduction is 30% below 1990 levels by 2020 in concert with the Kyoto Protocol. So challenges. It's a great opportunity I've been given to work as the climate action coordinator, but there are lots of challenges, and a lot of it has to do with how do you work within your own municipality, because my job is an inconvenient job, and it is to go to busy people and to ask them to take additional responsibilities and do things for me. And that never goes over very well the first time or 4 times you ask. But as the title of this session is, you just do it. So you just keep plugging away. I have to ask different departments to allocate staff time and funding to help me achieve my jobs. This is not a one department based program. This is interdepartmental, and getting that kind of support from departments that really don't see how I in any way have any kind of relationship with them is a struggle. I also have to work with staff to address and ask them to address environmental issues that really are not their responsibility. They've been given tasks, they have mandates, they have funding directives, and what I'm asking them to do is above and beyond that. They know that, I know that, and then that's where the dialogue begins. It's also, some of the things that we're doing, my boss and other department heads are concerned, well, is this setting us up for additional liability? If we do this much, is the state going to say, now you have to do even more? Those are real concerns, and that I struggle with and I appreciate, but my job is to just do it, to keep pushing and take all of this stuff internally and try and figure out how to weave and get some of these things done. And then sea level rise is another thing I think we'll talk about next. It's kind of on my plate, kind of not on my plate, but there's nobody else with a plate, so we'll see where that goes. But we do have a hazard mitigation plan that includes a climate adaptation chapter that nobody's read. Okay, next. So the approach, how do we do this? And I had 1,000 approaches. These are a few that actually worked. Establish goals that the council and the public can understand and support. And the reason that I was able to get as far in our climate action plan and be as aggressive as we are and as comprehensive as our plan is because I had huge support from the community. They came to every meeting and said, Ross, why aren't you doing more? And that gave me the ability to be as aggressive as we were, and make as many commitments as we have. Provide new resources to current staff. So I found that you don't go in and ask somebody to do something. You go in with resources. You go in with materials or education or an intern or money for additional staff within that department. Those kinds of small but important offers, help get you to align and work better together. One of the things that we've done over the last year that's been very successful is identify new staff positions that would need to be established to implement everything in the plan, and then advocate for those positions to be filled. And the best wins are when those positions are in different departments. And we've done that with a couple of positions where we've gone out and advocated for a position in a different department. At the end of the day, it built a relationship we didn't have before. And then again, establish tracking methods and document and celebrate progress. reporting back to City Council and to the public on all the great things that all staff within the city are doing is really important. And actually, on the little memory stick, I included my report to City Council that goes out next week of all the things that we're reporting for this last fiscal year. Couple early successes. We identified that there was nobody really in charge of energy efficiency and of general fund buildings. And how do we deal with that? There was nobody with the expertise on energy efficiency in parks and rec and police. So how do we fix that? Our water department, our wastewater had people that were really great at that kind of stuff, but they did it for their facilities. So we identified we needed an energy office and a staff specifically identified to bring that expertise to the general fund departments. And so I worked with Public Works, and we established a position that jointly dealt with 5 years of deferred maintenance during our economic downturn and energy efficiency upgrades. And that was funded and hired, and in about a year ago. And in the first year, we've done great things. This guy's just taken off, and energy efficiency becomes more and more of his daily responsibilities because of the huge successes that he's achieving. He's already saved the energy and energy efficiency upgrades 300,000 kilowatt hours and enough annual savings to bring back into the general fund to compensate a significant portion of his salary. He's also led conversion of most of the streetlights the city owns and has completed an audit of all general fund buildings, outline a strategy moving forward for the next decade on how we are progressive and take advantage of rebates and incentives, et cetera, efficiently. We're also a university town, and so something early on that we did was reached out to the faculty, students, and professors up there to figure out how can we cooperate. And it was very organic, and sometimes things worked, sometimes they didn't, but we have an ongoing internship program every year. We have researchers up there that are writing grants and doing research using our offshore capacity through our municipal wharf. And some of the things in there, and then they've reciprocated with, they have a carbon fund that the students pay for as part of their tuition. We've actually received several grants to help upgrade infrastructure that we didn't have the capital to do. And then another early success was our solar parking canopy at City Hall and the police station. It's about a half a megawatt between those two installations, and we did this as a partnership with some of the faculty on campus and some other consultants. There was no budget, there was no direction to go do it. We just kind of came up with a way to put in a project that didn't cost the city any money and would save money over time, and we could buy it outright at year 10 and be saving money from then on. And so we're going to save about $4 million over the life of the project. We met the no cost, and the best thing about it is that the mayor and city council park right under it every day, and so they can't forget about our program, and that's pretty wonderful. And so that's about it. You know, our strategy is to think broadly and think about different programs, coordinate with different people, and bring as much to the table to establish those partnerships as you can. Thank you.
Great. Any clarifying questions for Ross? If you think it might be applicable to the whole panel, let's wait till the end. Oh, Greg? No? Okay. Great. Well, let's move on then. Our last panelist before we get into the small group discussions is Benjamin Lucha. He's been with the city of Palmdale in LA County since 2007. His responsibilities include environmental programs, budget, and outreach. Additionally, he works on other projects, such as working with the Communications Department, serving on the Public Arts Committee, and the Hispanic Outreach Committee. Ben has almost 16 years of experience in the environmental field.
Thanks. Wow, our story is going to be a lot different from Matt and Ross. I'm even thinking that we should change our name to Santa Palmdale. Maybe that'll make things a little different there. But Okay, so I'm with the city of Palmdale. We're in northern Los Angeles County. And like I said, our scenario is quite a bit different. For example, we're a decent-sized city, but at least, most of our workforce actually commutes out of the city on a daily basis, with almost a third of our residents traveling more than an hour to get to their workplaces. So you can imagine how the scenario is in our city. And also the economy did hit us pretty hard. As you can see in the next slide, when I first started in the city of Palmdale, we had about 355 employees. We're now down to 181, so we're about half the workforce that we used to have. So implementing programs and doing things is not very easy for us, but we still do what we can. So in August of 2011, we implemented our energy action plan. We couldn't call it a climate action plan because we have a very conservative community, and it wouldn't have been accepted as easily that way. But it was amazing how easily our council did adopt it, even though they did understand what was the purpose behind it. One council member did make a comment about the politics behind greenhouse gas emissions, but he still adopted it because although we were focusing on complying with the law and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, it was pretty much set up to say, look, we need to do this, but look at all the other benefits we're going to bring to the city by doing it. And we focused a lot on money and savings, and that's what helped us get it through. So like I mentioned, we don't have a huge staff, so when it comes to implementing our plan, it's kind of more of a, like the title of our course is, it's a just do it type approach. We're just doing what we can as the plan outlines. We don't really have the staffing to be able to track how many metric tons we're reducing, or to have a checklist to go through and say, okay, now here's the next one we're going to do. It's taking advantage of every opportunity we get to implement it and making sure the right people who can get those projects implemented are aware of it and doing it. And I have a few examples of how we've done that approach. For example, one is show me the money. This is our water park in our city, and what you see in front of that water park are a bunch of boxes with photovoltaic panels. We have a very extensive solar project that currently is actually being wrapped up as we speak, and we've got close to 1 megawatt of solar that we've installed because we have, first of all, extensive sun. We have a lot of sunlight out there in Palmdale, and we went the solar canopy route. And one thing I'm really proud of is that although for the council and most of the community, the important thing is money savings. We're saving money, we're providing shaded parking spots. I was still able to negotiate into that agreement that we were going to retain the renewable energy credits and still show that money savings. And no matter how many times it's amazing how quickly people's eyes glaze over when I mention retaining the renewable energy credits. They have no idea what I'm talking about and they don't really care. All they care about is, wow, we have solar and we have shade. Another thing is, when life hands you lemons, what do? Our planning department, for example, we have a water efficient landscaping ordinances that they've been implementing. They've been putting onto the books. And there's a lot of greenhouse gas savings that we're realizing by doing it. But it's because of the current situation we're in. The drought's hitting everyone and we're in the desert, so you can imagine how it is for us. So they actually have some very aggressive water efficiency landscaping ordinances. For example, if you let your yard go and then code enforcement has to come and tell you need to keep up your yard, it's like, guess what? Now you have to take out all of your turf, and it has to be xeriscaped. You can no longer have turf in your front yard. All new builds cannot have turf in their front yard. We don't go in the back at least. So if you want grass for your children, you can have it in your backyard, but you can't have it in the front. And multiple departments are actually working together to implement this. Also, there's synergy. This is a little shot from a company that's actually locating itself in Palmdale. They're a Korean company that makes wind turbines. And so, since there was that synergy going, planning was able to put in an ordinance that helps address putting wind turbines in your home. What kind of rules you need to follow. And I'm sorry I don't have the specifics since I'm in public works. If you want to know more, you can contact me and I'll get you in touch with our planning department and they'll explain it to you. It's mainly, we do have some larger lot size homes, so it works out there in those homes, and we were able to put that on the books because the council was excited about bringing in this business. And then also looking towards the future, our mayor is, believe it or not, is very excited about high-speed rail. He's a big fan of high-speed rail. He fights to keep high-speed rail, keep us on the route of high-speed rail. But our council's not a big fan of high-density housing, because people don't move to Palmdale because they want to live in an apartment. They move to Palmdale because they want to pay the same amount for a home that they would pay for an apartment elsewhere. But because our mayor is a big fan of high-speed rail and our council really believes in it, we were able to do transit-oriented development around the areas where high-speed rail is supposed to be going through the city. But even when you think you have a great plan, it doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen. And a great example is our solar project. Like I said, solar energy, saving money, saving the planet, shaded parking, it's a slam dunk. Well, it really wasn't. We were putting these into some of our parks because they were our biggest energy users, and our parks department was not very happy with us. And then the supporters of the parks department, when they found out what we were doing, they weren't very happy with us too. And they said, they had the reaction of leave it up to Public Works to not care about the community, and all they care about is saving money. And so they were fighting it. And so we actually had to do a compromise. And unfortunately, you can't see it too well here on the slide, but we actually had to add like a small architectural feature on the bottom of the canopy so it's not as obtrusive, and then also colorize it. There were a lot of other solar canopies around the city from schools or other jurisdictions, and they just kind of have the dull gray pillar with the photovoltaic cells on top. We added that architectural feature to kind of soften it up, and we agreed with Parks, you know what, we're going to work with you to colorize the supports to a way that you can live with it. So around our facilities where we have them, they're a light beige color to match the buildings because we have more of a southwest type design, and in our parks they're light green. And Parks was able to live with that, but it took some compromise. And we even had to sacrifice some of the savings we were going to realize by putting those in, by adding in those architectural features, but we were still able to save money, retain our renewable energy credits, and not have Parks as mad at us as they were originally. So like I said, we kind of have an attitude of we're doing what we can. The people who know what the plan is, who are familiar with it, they know what's in it, and they identify the opportunities to implement it, and we're just moving forward with doing what we can.
Okay, so we're going to reconvene. We're going to hear from one person from each table. If we have time at the end, I'll ask our panel to come back up, and we'll ask for closing remarks and any questions that arose for your panelists during your breakout sessions. All right, so Demetra, you're up first. What's your idea, your solution to overcome the challenges of implementing climate action plans? And can you stand, please? Sorry.
Here you go. Where's my key light? Are you talking about the solutions? Are we skipping to 3 or? We were talking about maybe some kind of state centralized, standardized, and funded tool so that the state could be uniform and consistent and have cohesion in its greenhouse gas inventories and its updates. Because right now we have a lot of diversity between people who can and have the bandwidth or maybe the resources to do it and jurisdictions that don't. But even among those that do, they're not using the same methodology, so we can't be confident we're comparing apples and apples.
Great. So a statewide greenhouse gas calculator, climate action plan standardized tool. Is that what I'm hearing? For the inventories particular. Could I have Brian record these ideas for me, please? Thank you, Brian. Brian's our recorder for all these great suggestions. All right, who's the reporter here? Okay, can you stand up?
All right. We all really like the partnership model, but we find that the focus on just energy efficiency is lacking when we're talking about climate planning. So if there could be another source of funds for our partnership implementers that wasn't tied to kilowatt hour savings and therm savings, to allow the partnership meetings and phone calls to talk about vehicle miles traveled and bike lanes and all those other climate action plan items that need to be moved forward just like energy efficiency projects do. So having the partnerships even draft climate action plans for the cities and include implementation in the partnership model.
Great suggestion. Leverage the partnership network with other dollars that don't have to be tied directly to electricity and natural gas savings in order to have comprehensive climate action planning and implementation support using the partnership framework. All right, who are we here? Lindsay, a former SEEC person, now with the ARB.
Hi, guys. Okay, so a couple of themes in terms of successes and needs at our table. This is reorganization and actually having a full-time staff person with a focus on implementation, and a couple of the folks at our table have that emerging at their agencies, as well as continued opportunities to learn from each other and partner on the various topics. For example, in Richmond, they have a particular issue with refineries, so connecting with a city like Benicia to share information and how you're grappling with that particular challenge is really useful in terms of moving forward.
So a way to partner more with similar communities like your own? More of the same of this. More forums. Great. And remind me. Okay, Mindy.
Thanks. Yeah, our suggestion for a way that we could be supported in having our caps is to create, and this is in the works, a central data repository for all the utility data that'll just help cities more easily track their improvement over time, more easily prepare inventories, and just see where they're improving or not improving enough.
Thank you, Mindy. And for those of you that don't know, the investor-owned electricity and natural gas utilities are working on a repository for our aggregated residential and electricity data by zip code. And that was a early May decision by the CPUC, and it should happen by the end of the year. It won't be one database, it'll be one per investor-owned utility. Feel free to ask me more questions. Russ?
So we had a lot of similar notes, building on the data, having the utilities and the state provide consistent data in a uniform way to all of us, maybe during the same year, so we could do annual 5-year incremental updates of our inventories in a standard methodology throughout the state would be a great step forward, including VMT and all of those things. And then also linking funding to climate action plan adoption and implementation was something that came up, and then really the support to draft and then your climate action plans and then actually staff climate action plans is really important, because you can do projects periodically, but unless there's somebody there to really man the plan, it doesn't get done as quickly or as incrementally.
Well, great. I think most of these are very actionable suggestions. Can I have my panelists come back up? We have about 5 minutes left, and I thought some of your questions may have been answered in the breakout, but just in case they weren't, I want to open up for just a few last final questions and thoughts from the panel. Does anyone have one to kick us off? Demetra?
Do I have to stand up again? No. Sorry, he was at our table, but we were working on your question, so I didn't get an opportunity to ask. When you have the code enforcement where somebody is forced to change out to zero-scaping, that can be a little pricey, so do they absorb the entire cost for that? Is there some kind of mechanism? Is there anything that the water district maybe supports or rebates?
Well, yeah, it is somewhat costly, and I know the city, we're not going to instantly just force people out of their homes over the issue. And the good thing is that our local water agencies do have rebates to help out with these programs. They don't cover everything, but we work with them. But the whole issue is you can't just come in and bring in turf again. You now have to zero-scape, and it's kind of a warning to other people too of you got to maintain your lots, because if you don't, this is what's going to happen. And so, but yeah, we work with them, but Yeah, I can't say.
You don't want xeriscaping to be like punishment.
I'm not saying that it is a punishment, but actually we even have like demonstration gardens so that people can come and see, how to xeriscape, and we've highlighted other xeriscaped homes before so that people can see that, and we've got other funding mechanisms that we're working on to help people out.
Any other final questions for the panel? No? We'll go Robin and then Alexa, and then we'll wrap up.
Matt, can you go into a little more detail about what sorts of things are in the climate action plan other than the obvious? I know that there's transportation and there's other things that aren't and quality of life things that aren't necessarily in most CAPs.
Sure. I'm trying to remember the the different categories. Our sustainability plan includes all kinds of things like voter registration and proximity to parks. Public art is a new category that we've added, arts and culture. So sustainability goes even much wider than climate planning. But the climate plan, right? There's vehicle miles traveled and transportation. There's land use. There's open space. We actually have a project to measure carbon sequestration from the urban forest. So they planted a bunch of new trees all at the same time and are tracking how much carbon is being sequestered. So it goes beyond just energy efficiency and pace and things like that.
Can I add to that? Oh yeah. And again, I agree. And one of the things we did in our climate action plan is set these goals and then allocate them to programs that were already in place, and then argue for those half-time environmental staff to be full-time. So we have a green building person and a green business person that were both half-time. And so we've integrated a lot of our energy efficiency into homes and renewables into the green building program, and then been able to get more support for it. So it's a good way to reach into areas that a municipality would usually not have a lot of capacity through some of our environmental programs that already existed.
And I'll concur with that. Through PG&E's partnership programs, we supported plus or minus about 75 energy climate action plans. And I often hear our partners say, oh, well, if it doesn't have GHG reductions, I'm not putting it in the plan. And some of those foundational measures, like the mechanics of how the funding, the savings go back towards the plan, are crucial. We call them foundational measures, and they shouldn't be forgotten. Our final question, Alexa.
Given the vast array of tracking and monitoring tools that are out there, I'm curious what tools each of you are using. And then given that there's various departments responsible for implementing each measure, I'd be curious, what are some success stories or challenges that you've had, gathering all that data and tracking it?
So we just completed this process because I go to City Council next week to report on our annual update. And our tools were Excel and email. And we have 12 milestones, and basically I emailed the list out and said, what has your program done to do one of these? Oh, and by the way, you look at number 4. And that was the best way to get feedback. We also have an interdepartmental meeting every month, and I presented to them what I heard, and then everyone rose their hand and said, wait a minute, you're not counting me. And I got the rest of it that way.
That's exactly right. I would add telephone communications to but Excel is the tool we use. But I heard a rumor that the ClearPath software is going to be tracking implementation now. Is that true?
Yes. Brian, do you want to say the rumor's true? So by this fall, there will be a ClearPath California tool for monitoring your climate action plans.
And even to this table's kind of identified need here, ClearPath, it already has the inventory module, forecasting, decision support for climate action planning. The inventory module is consistent with the protocols that are out there, so you don't have to worry about that. The whole tool is cloud-based. It's really user-friendly, and it's available at no cost to all local governments and their consultants in California through the SEEC program. So it's an awesome tool, and it's going to have the implementation and monitoring modules, basically the third quarter of this year. So
that's exciting.
We're doing and so we're doing everything we can to get people in there. There's online training modules on the SEEC website. There's users guides, and we're going to be out around the state conducting 10 trainings in person with hands-on instruction on how to use it. So that'll be over the next 4 or 5 months, and you'll be hearing about it on the California SEEC website, maybe from some of your COGs, and from your IOU project managers. So lots of additional resources to support you in that.
Great. Thanks, Brian. And they've convened a committee of smart folks to lead that development, so we're all excited for it. The only other thing I'll note is that the Governor's Office of Planning and Research is a proponent of the ClearPath tool, and they've committed to keep the tool online if, gosh forbid, any funding goes away, the current funding stream goes away. So, Ben, did you have anything to add? I want to wrap up. We're a little over.
Yeah. Well, given our circumstance, I guess that would only be me. So I guess I'm calling myself a tool. But no. No. But seriously, it's I wish I could say I'm dedicated to this like 100%. I do have a lot of responsibilities on top of this. But it's me going to someone's office, sitting down in their chair in their office, and asking them, "So what's going on with this? Can you give me an update?" I don't have specific tonnage that I can give to you, because it would mean I'd have to sit down and calculate it. But really, like I said, we're just kind of having this attitude right now. We're just going to do what we can as quickly as we can and when we can. So, really, no one's really asking for the actual measurements in the city of Palmdale, but we're actually implementing quite a bit. And yeah, it's sometimes actually it does come up though. For example, we have a new city manager, and he's coming up with a new strategic plan, and he wanted measurements for some of the strategic plan elements. And so my director came to me and he said, "Well, what are we going to do with all of our?" He had some measurements, but he asked me for some, and I threw in. We're going to reduce this many tons of greenhouse gases through doing this, and we're going to do this from that. And so, little by little, we are trying to track it, but it's more of just doing the programs right now, and then the tracking, unfortunately, is an afterthought.
All right, well, with that, give a hand to our color-coordinated panel.